Hi, welcome back to Focal Point, 888-589-8840. My name is Brian Fisher. This is the home of Muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. You might hear things here that you don't typically hear on Conservative Christian Radio because this is the home of Muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. We've even explored on this program the fact that Jesus' teaching is the foundation for the Second Amendment. Remember that time on the night he was betrayed, he said to his disciples, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one, because I am numbered with the transgressors. You're associated with me. You are going to be numbered with the transgressors. You may need it for your own protection, for your own self-defense. Now, John Lott is probably the smartest guy on gun laws and gun violence anywhere. He has a book entitled More Guns, Less Crime, in which he's documented the fact that the more weapons you have, the more people you have that are able to defend themselves, the less crime that you have. He was interviewed by David Patton of Newsmax over the weekend, and he says, look, these gun-free zones, like a school, they are like magnets for deranged killers. Where do they go? They go to places that they know people are not going to be able to defend themselves. And he pointed out that Germany, if gun control was the answer, Germany's got stricter gun control laws than we have, and 2 of the 4 worst public school shootings in the modern era have been in the country of Germany. And Europe's got all kinds of mass shootings, and every one of them has this in common. They happen in gun-free zones. So it's like a neon light for a deranged killer. Where's he going to go? He's going to go to a place where he knows nobody is going to shoot back. And he talked with David Patton about this Aurora, Colorado shooting, and he talked about the fact that I mentioned this before, but it's worth repeating, there were 7 movie theaters that were showing the Batman movie when it opened at the end of July, but there was only one of those 7 movie theaters that was posted as a theater where the carrying of concealed handguns was, even if they had a permit, was banned. So the killer did not go to the theater that was closest to his home. He didn't go to the movie theater that was the largest movie theater in Colorado, although it was the same distance from his apartment as the one he went. In fact, he picked the only one that banned people from protecting themselves with handguns. And so that's why that's always their favorite target, is to go to places where guns are banned. And so his point is, look, if you ban guns, you're not making it safer for the victims, you're making it safer for the criminals. And he says, look, I believe the intentions of these people that want to ban guns and they want schools to be gun-free, I believe their intentions are good. I don't doubt that. But what they're doing is making life less safe and the environment less safe for students rather than more safe. It's not safer for the victims, it's safer for the criminals. And he says, imagine you had somebody stalking you. Would it make you feel safer at night if you put a sign out in front of your yard, this home is a gun-free zone? Would it make you feel safer if you advertised to the guy that is stalking you, if you break into this house, we are helpless and cannot protect ourselves? And he said, only a lunatic would do that. I mean, only somebody that's not thinking clearly, not lunatic, but somebody that's not thinking rationally would do that. I mean, a rational person is not going to advertise the fact that they are helpless and cannot defend themselves, but that's exactly what these gun-free zones do. And he points out the fact that when states adopt right-to-carry laws, the murder rates go down and rapes and robberies go down because the bad guys simply don't know who's going to be able to protect themselves. Virginia Tech, Virginia's got a concealed carry permit policy, but one of the few places in the state of Virginia you are not allowed to carry a concealed weapon is on a campus. So where does the guy go? He goes to Virginia Tech, and 32 people are dead as a result because nobody on that campus was in a position to defend himself. And Lott points out, before the advent of the Safe School Zone Act, it used to be legal to carry concealed on campuses. And he says in that time, that no one, this is a quote, no one has been able to point to a single bad thing that occurred, not one, not a single bad thing that occurred from a policy that allowed school faculty to carry concealed, not one single one. You talk about the response time. I mean, this guy killed himself in Connecticut when he heard the police in the hallway. It was a show of force that stopped him. And John Lott's point is, look, if you're counting on response time from the police, I mean, if they get there in 8 minutes, that's a world record. The average response time to a 9/11 call, 23 minutes. You have any idea how many people could be killed in 23 minutes? And you compare that, a response time, an average response time from the police of 23 minutes, compare that to the response time of a 357, 1,400 feet per second. Now, that's the kind of response time that actually can protect somebody's life. Now, here is John Lott on with Piers Morgan, clip 11. Let's listen to their exchange. Piers Morgan, of course, a fierce advocate for gun control, which, remember, does not make the world safer for victims. It makes it safer for criminals. Let's listen.
It is time for an
murder
amnesty.
rates went
in
up.
America.
Listen,
There's an amnesty in Australia
murder
as well.
rates went up.
There are about 35 murders a year in Britain.
But it was lower for another
there
reason.
There are nearly 12,000 murders a year from guns in this country.
The point is,
when are you guys going to focus on that?
But
stop telling me the answer is more guns.
No,
it is not the answer.
Look,
listen.
Let's
focus on
than it
let's
was
I need to
after
say
the
something
ban.
here.
It was higher than it was before the ban.
So you want more guns, not less?
I'm saying
300 million guns in America isn't enough for you.
When you ban guns,
how many more kids have to die before you guys say, look, we want less guns, not more?
I'm upset about this. He asked me a question.
I want to tell you something.
Let him answer the question.
I'm upset because I'm worried that the gun control laws that you're pushing have killed people.
A lot of nonsense.
And John Lott is exactly right. And Piers Morgan obviously wasn't going to allow him to get a single word in edgewise. Let's go back to the phones. Let us go to Jerry in North Arkansas. Jerry, you're on Focal Point. Welcome. What's on your mind?
Brian, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your program and what you stand for.
Thank you.
I'm a police officer. I'm in my squad car right now, and I don't want to divulge what particular county I'm in. But
absolutely,
I will tell this. I want to take issue with the gentleman that called in earlier, and I can't remember his name, but he said he was 68. When you take God out of schools, Brian, it leaves a void. When you leave a void, what goes in that void?
Mm-hmm.
The devil goes in that void. I also want to say this. I have a nephew that has Asperger's syndrome, and the child is exactly what they say. He's super intelligent. But I don't know how this child was raised that committed this atrocity, but I know this young man that's my nephew, and I know his heart, and I know that I don't feel like that he would ever be capable of doing something like this based on how he was raised and all this. And if the principal had a closeted legal gun or concealed carry, there probably would be one dead instead of 26 dead.
Yeah.
And I know this has been repeated over and over again, but when you take God out of something, you leave a void for something else to come in, and if it ain't of God, it's of the devil, and it's just the way it goes. When people pull their guns and aim them at me, they're not good people. It don't matter what's wrong with them or who they are. Good people don't do that. But I want to thank you again for your program, and I'm a daily listener, and I appreciate what y'all do.
Thank you, Jerry, and may God bless you and protect you as you protect the citizens of your community. Great call from a law enforcement officer, and he's making the point, we say this all the time, nature abhors a vacuum. So if those that have been entrusted by God with the authority to protect, to educate and protect young children, our children, and they don't use that authority to call for God's protection, then what happens is the shield of protection, the umbrella of protection that God is willing to place over a school, it's not there because they never ask for that. So that means that things can get through that maybe otherwise wouldn't get through because there's no shield. There's no protection. So as evil begins to ratchet up in a culture and more people try these kinds of things and they start probing the limits, they find that those are places where there's no protection. So, people are kind of thinking that, I went to school. We had no prayer in school. I was fine. Not realizing that what we've been doing, and here's the analogy I would use, starting with our founding fathers and up through 1962, we accumulated a certain amount of moral and spiritual capital in this country because we shared these values. We publicly prayed to God. We acknowledged him. We observed the wisdom and the values and the transcendent standards of the Ten Commandments. We understood the appropriateness of acknowledging God, our dependence upon him. And we did that as a culture until 1962, until the Supreme Court said we couldn't, and we meekly complied to that unconstitutional ruling. Well, all during that time, we built up a very healthy store of moral capital. And what happened starting in 1962, we stopped adding to that supply of moral capital. We started eating it up. We started consuming it. We started chewing through that capital of moral and spiritual protection. And that's what we've been doing since 1962. And I would say after 50 years, we have just about consumed all of the moral capital that was left to us by our founders and the generations that followed them. We are now down to the bottom of the sack. There's nothing there. And the protection that we once had, I think even there was some residual protection. I mean, maybe that, I'm just using analogies here, obviously, but maybe that zone of protection that was there just begins to become just a little more brittle. It becomes weaker over time. You start to have holes in that zone of protection. Now there are places where Satan can get through. And this law enforcement official says, look, very clearly the world is the battlefield between God and Satan. Two opposing forces, not equally powerful. Satan's a created being. All he can do is take what God has done and twist it and distort it and destroy it. He has no capacity to create anything, but he's out to destroy everything that God does. And so if God is not invited to be a presence in any environment, then he's not going to come where he's not invited. He is a gentleman. He plays by the rules. He gave us free will. He said, I'm urging you to use your free will to invite me to come into your world and save you and redeem you and protect you and fulfill you. If you won't, I will honor that choice because I gave you that free will as the most precious gift I have to offer you, and I'm not going to infringe on that. I'm going to respect that. I'm going to accept the decision that you make. That'll destroy you, and that's what I'm warning you about. That's why I've sent my servants to communicate this to you and to warn you so that nobody can say when it all falls apart, nobody told us. Why didn't anybody tell us about these things? But God says in the end, I'll respect your choice. The alternative's God or Satan. Focal Point AFR Talk.